When you are popping out these babies, and that's what some of you do, you just pop them out. Sometimes you have to have a little sprinkle of fear for your parents. Are you so depressed that you want to fight the elderly?
My baby looking too good, yeah, she perfect. No, she worth it. When she pull up, all them man, them flirting. And yeah, she know that she a dime. Call up on my line, told her, baby, bring it one time. Yeah, just sit down and breathe.
What's really good, though? It's your girl, Yezzir. You are locked in to another banging episode of Hey Sis UK. Make sure as you're sitting down that you're chilling out, you're getting comfy, but you've liked, subscribed, and you've dropped a comment for me one time. Obviously, we're here for the visual episodes on YouTube, and you can hear the audible ones on Spotify. So that's Hey Sis UK. In case you didn't know, I'm here to let you know. Our sponsor for this season of Hey Sis UK is none other than Chapman's of London. Yeah, you know the coins, original. Everybody knows about Chapman's that you get from Nigeria. Well, this is Chapman's of London, baby, and it comes in different flavors. Now, my fave is this right here. And you have to have this chilled. It's very important. Like, you get the best taste when it's nice and chilled for the summer, spring, autumn, winter. It doesn't matter because it's going to taste good. But I'm trying to clean eat. I'm trying to clean drink. And this has no artificial flavorings, no colorings. It's vegan friendly, okay? This is it right now. So if you haven't got it, get yourself your Hey Sis mug. Links are down below so you can get it. I'm going to pop this bad boy open right now. Look at this. Let's get this in. A little ASMR. Oof, 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 oof. This episode, my people, my sisters, my brothers, I see you. Get yourself a drink. Because your good sis has been tried throughout the week. And I come here to speak to you, the familia, to understand what the heck is going on in this world. So let me go ahead and take a sip right now. Listen, you need to get into this, And they got different flavors. You got blackcurrant, you got blood orange, you got pomegranate, you got cucumber, you got bitters in it. Yeah, I said bitters. For the people that know, I see you. You want to live a healthy, lovely life. And you got the original and you got the light. Original. For me, magnifique. So let's get into this, people. There is no soft way of putting this, but I wouldn't be your sis if I didn't deliver it the way I deliver it. Some parents in Southeast London, when you are popping out these babies, and that's what some of you do, you just pop them out. Make sure that as you're raising these children, they're in a happy home and you cover them in a lot of love, because some of you have put some real monsters out here in these streets and you don't have to deal with them. You stopped dealing with them a long time ago. That's why you stopped parenting. But we, taxpayers, people that work hard, people that just want a decent life with a bit of peace, you unleash these monsters out in the street. And these are very angry children. And I'll tell you why they're angry. There was a time where you could hear children laugh on the street. I can't remember the last time I heard a child laugh on the street. Children going out to play, people that are just smiling. These children are very angry because they're coming from your homes. That's what I'm saying. As you are popping out these children, have these children happily. If you know you can't have these children happily, maybe your life isn't set up in a way that allows you to create that comfort that they need. Please stop. Please stop, because we have to deal with your kids when you're not around. And even when you are around, some of you lot let these children run amok. And when the village has to check in, some of you get an attitude. You can't have an attitude, because if you don't want people to check your children outside, then go and check your children at home, because we have to deal with them. And we don't have to affirm the rude behaviour. Can you imagine? I had one rat look at me. I looked at the rat. Bump me. Yeah. And they said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Because I looked at them like, "Are you mad? Are you drunk?" The child said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Aren't you going to say sorry back?" I looked at the kid looked at me. I looked back at the kid. Why would I say sorry? That was my first mistake. I shouldn't even have responded. I should have walked off. Then the child goes, "Oh, you should say sorry back." I said, "You don't demand sorries in this life, and you're a very rude child. Move from me. Move." The girl went, "I'm a big woman, we can take it there." There's only one place when you say we're going to take it there's only one way it's going to end. That's why I proceeded to say, move from me, man. Because I said to myself as I pondered on this rat walking away, who are the parents? There's a lot of things that we can blame having bad children on. You know, there's socioeconomic factors into this and society. You've got lack of positive role models. You've got the school system. You just got, as a whole, parents struggling, you know, working long hours. But we're going to go through and break down as to why there seems to be a rise in miserable children. Now, a lot of you are popping out babies that you can't afford. And then these babies get to an age and you start saying, you need to get a job. And these kids are grabbing the first job they can get. And unfortunately, the first job you can get isn't always the nicest job. You might end up on, I don't know, a newspaper round or working in a football stadium. So you're coming home and you're peed off. You probably have to pay rent because your parents have said you got to pay your way. So instead of you to sit down with your mum and dad and say, you know, why can't life be a bit better? Or try to carve out something that brings you a bit of solace or happiness in your life. These kids take it out on children. I've seen kids where they'll be in a shopping centre threatening to beat up the security guards. Do you remember the video of those kids? I thought they were grown men, but apparently they're children, that randomly picked up a chair in a shopping centre, and they got to be at least 2 floors up. They lift up the chair, they throw it down for fun. Now, when we told them to leave the community centre for the children, they didn't want to listen. Leave the community centre for the kids so they have somewhere to go. They were doing the music. They were playing a bit of snooker. They were playing on video games. They were meeting each other. That was their hub. You shut down the community centre and now these children are terrorising the adults. They're terrorizing us because they're bored. A lot of them, they can't afford the consoles, or when they go on social media, they have someone there reminding them that they're broke. So now you've got angry, broke children out in the streets of London running amok. And I'm sorry, you're going to say, well, you don't have to call them broke, Yezzi. Well, yeah, that's what they are. They're poor children. And I'm not saying that rich children don't do foolishness as well, but I'm going to speak on the foolery that I've come across in South London and South East London, to be precise. Because it really dawned on me, like, where are the happy kids? Because these children, every day they're moaning about, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. I want to do what this person's doing, buy that, purchase this, spend this, live that lifestyle that you know at this point in your life you can't attain because mommy and daddy can't do it. So what happens? Sometimes these children manipulate, and a lot of them are smarter than their parents. I'll give them that. Shout out to them. I mean, it's not a shout out because they're using it in the wrong ways, but there are a lot of children that are smarter than their parents. So you have poor children with poor parents, and then these poor children manipulate their poor parents into financing a lifestyle that they can't afford. But because these parents have a bit of guilt, they try to work every shift under the sun to afford a few materialistic things. It could be the latest trainers, clothes, you name it, they're going to try and get for them. So as these parents are working long hours to afford a lifestyle that they've lied to their children that they can afford, what happens? The devil makes work for idle hands. These children are at home by themselves, unsupervised. And I'm not talking about an age where, okay, technically you no longer need a babysitter for them. That's fine. But we're talking about the fact that these children haven't got anything to focus on. So what do they do out of boredom? Because it's never enough. If you have a poor child that doesn't realize they're poor, they let this thing called greed seep in. And with greed, there is no means to an end when it comes to greed. You just want more and more. There is no, okay, I'm satisfied moment. So that's why you have these kids on certain apps and they're talking about how, you know, they want to run certain fraudulent techniques from their peers. So now you got manipulative children manipulating other children who are being groomed by adults that were once the poor children in that very position that they're in now. And the cycle never stops because nobody's taking care of them, because you got the parents in this vicious cycle, because it is vicious at this point, of having to work and work and work to have something to make them feel like they're not low. Maybe if I buy this thing, life isn't as bad as it seems to be. Sign me up for some retail therapy. But the thing about retail therapy, it's for a short space of time. It's a little shot to help you in that moment of time. It's not a long-term fix to your long-term issues of money management. So when you've got parents struggling with the whole lifestyle and they're working, and don't get me wrong, everybody notices that bills have gone up. You would have had that heads up of saying, yo, from travel to all your utility bills, your council tax, everything is going up. And parents have to cope with that because we're talking about necessities. You have to have the heating on. You have to have a place to stay. But what we need to do, because I'm not going to be the villager that partakes in raising your child. No, sir. That is your issue to deal with in your mini village. And when I mean mini village, I mean your immediate family and whoever you want to add on. So if you got an absent parent, you need an uncle or auntie or somebody that can be that role model or take the position of saying, I'm going to help to chip in to raise this child. Because overall, it can be easier to raise a child when you have the right members of your village around you, when you've got the male figure, the female figure in the household, when you've got the elders to come with that wisdom, when you have someone a bit younger that can keep up with the fast pace of raising a child in a very fast-paced society. But when you have people who want to leave their child to the state to raise, and a lot of people, you know, we're in England and you got a lot of things that are, I mean, they're not free. You pay for them through taxes, but hey, let's call it free on the offset. You got your free education, you got your free healthcare. Up until a certain age, you got free travel for your children. You start to think that that's enough. As long as my child goes to school, there's nothing I need to do when they come home. Yes, you still have to be a parent around the hours your child's not in school. You still have to educate them. Even if you're not a scholar in certain subjects, you still have to educate and raise your child to be a decent human being. But the problem is a lot of parents think that as long as a child is fed and clothed, that's enough. Keeping a human being alive doesn't make you Parent of the Year award. Because there's a lot of you with absolute monsters out in these streets of London that need to be told you're rubbish. I don't regret what I'm saying, because I've seen young boys challenge men old enough to be their grandfather to a fight. And you ask yourself, are you so depressed as a delinquent? Are you so depressed that you want to fight the elderly? Think about it. You have nothing to live for. You know when people say, oh, you know, don't get into this fight or don't get into these situations because you have something to live for. You have a future ahead of you. The problem is there are a lot of young people in London who genuinely don't believe they have a future ahead of them. They genuinely don't believe they're going to achieve anything or amount to anything in their life, because if they did, they wouldn't get into half the foolishness that they get themselves into. But they're the same people, and I've seen it many a times in courts, that they're ready to cry on cue. The tears come on cue, as in, please, somebody give them an Oscar. And there'll be people saying, oh, you know, Yezzi, show a bit of sympathy. I can show sympathy, I can show empathy. But what I won't be is ignorant to the fact that there's some children that are just bad. And they're bad because they have bad parents who don't know how to parent. And yes, we can say it's a generational thing. But there has to be someone that's honest. You might have a friend, say you had a girlfriend that's a mother, and you noticed a few things with their child, yeah? And you're like, girl, you might not want to do that, or, you know, you need to be a bit firmer than them. And the first thing people like to do is, you're not a parent, so you don't understand. I'm so sorry, but the whole you're not a parent, so you don't understand card doesn't negate from the fact that you're just a bad parent. It doesn't negate from the fact that your parenting technique isn't good. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that the way in which you decide to raise this child, the end results aren't going to be good. But what you like to do, instead of accepting correction, guidance, and just genuine overall love, you want to have this defense mechanism of saying, you're not in the position I'm in, so you don't understand. So how do we ever improve? Generally, how do we ever improve? That's why some of you call up some of your friends, and your friends don't want to babysit your children because your children are bad kids. But some of your friends aren't telling you the truth. They're telling you they're busy all the time. In case you didn't know, sometimes when your friends say they don't want to babysit your children, it's not because they're really busy. It's because your children aren't a joy to be around. You know, when they say there's times like Christmas and summer barbecues and picnics, and the thing you enjoy is just hearing the laughter of children and seeing them play in their youth, and they're just blossoming. Yeah, we don't get that feeling when it comes to your kids. So keep your kids away from us. Thank you. Thank you. Because it's not that I'm getting onto the kids, but I'm getting onto the fact that the kids are the way they are because of the parents. There was a time, when I was in school, I'm talking school uniform stages, that if a parent said, or if a teacher said, oh, I'm about to call your parents, you're shaking. Yo, I see you watching this episode. Yeah, I see you enjoying it. But I know you haven't liked, you definitely haven't subscribed, and you haven't dropped a comment. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have some Chapmans of London. I'm going to sip on this and give you a bit of time to make up your mind. You better do the right thing. Yeah, that's enough time. Let's get back to the episode. You're shaking. Sometimes you have to have a little sprinkle of fear for your parents, because that's the only thing that's going to get your ass in check. But some of these people will be like, I don't want my children to be afraid of me. I know what you mean in the grand scheme of things. Of course, you don't want your children to genuinely fear you, because that means they can't approach you when they're going through things and they just want to genuinely talk. We're talking about the occasion of fear, so there can be an amount of respect when it comes to a parent and child relationship. It's okay to say, I'm not your little friend, because I'm not your little friend. So when a teacher, and you'd see it, when a teacher goes, oh, I'm going to call your parents, and the child's like, so what? So what? There's some kids that used to laugh because you want to call my mum or my dad, they don't have your time. The reason why they don't have your time is because they're working every hour under the damn sun. That's why. The reason why you're able to intercept all the letters from school is not a good thing. It's because your parents are overworking themselves for a life that's hard to keep up with. That's why you're able to intercept all the letters from your school. That's why I don't blame some teachers on parents' evening when they're like, I need to be able to get in contact with you. And then you got the one parent that goes, you know what, you take my mobile number. So when they act up, you call me straight. Because some of you kids know how you can get. Some of you kids need to be regulated. Because I was dumbfounded throughout this week. I've seen children who don't have a thirst for life. I'm not talking about that thirst for life that when they get to the courtroom and they realize that it's not juvenile prison or anything, 'cause it's not young offenders, they go into big boy prison. It's not that. It's not like when they go to jail and they know, okay, let me give it a couple weeks, We're talking about you really doing a sentence out here. That's when the tears come. I'm talking about having a thirst for life, having interests, having things that you enjoy, that thing that you go to bed and you can't wait to see. You're thinking about it and you can't wait to see it the next day. There is a lack of motivated children out here in these streets. Half these kids, and I'm not putting pressure on children, but there are a lot of 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds that haven't got a clue what they're doing with their life. I'm not talking about figuring things out, but even if you ask the average kid, so, what are you into? What do you like to do? I don't know. They're subdued. A lot of these kids have access to all these canisters, if you know what I know, and if you know what I mean. Canisters, other herbs of that nature, and they are walking corpses. Sorry, I had to say it. They are in a weed psychosis. I had to say it. These children are numb in the brain. That is why they can't be functional adults in society. But here we are having to suffer with the outbreaks, with the fact that they are carrying around weapons from God knows where. And then when they feel like it, or when they're having an episode, because a lot of them are untreated, undiagnosed, because they don't have attentive parents, or parents that they've gotten to an age where a parent can't do anything. When they should have disciplined them, they didn't discipline them, and now the window has well and truly passed. And then these kids are having their episodes and they're harming people in real life. So I'm here to say to parents, when you know you have a troublesome child. Stop saying things like boys will be boys, or it's probably be puberty, or I'm going to get round to it, or I'm going to put them in prayer. I'm a Christian woman. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ and his teachings. I'm a believer in reading the actual Bible. But faith without works is dead. So a lot of you saying, oh, I'm going to put this one in prayer. As you're putting it in prayer, also do the work in raising your child, disciplining your child, doing what needs to be done so your child isn't a burden on other people, a burden on the state, a burden on people just in society trying to live their lives peacefully. Because I think I can speak on behalf of myself and a few other people. All we want is peace. When we leave our front door, we want to be able to know that we're going to come home peacefully, without any ruckus, without any angry children. One of those things that we need to have, let's bring back the community centres. Yes, they said that they are a hub and a breeding ground for gangs to be able to target kids because, okay, if you're going to have anything from the age of 12 to 18 all in one space, then woo, easy to target. But there's a way you can do things that you're able to make sure that these groomers can't do what they're doing. And let's be honest, the same people targeting to recruit children and groom them at youth clubs and community centres, they're still pulling up at the secondary school, the colleges as well, the centres for the children that misbehave. So let's not act like they've disappeared just because we shut down the youth clubs. Let's not do that. And there's certain areas that I've seen, they still have youth clubs. They just changed the wording. You know who you are. Let's bring it back, because not every child is going to be able to afford the most expensive console in their home and have access to things like, you'd be surprised, the internet or their own personal device like a laptop. Bring it back so children can be able to be happy. They can develop their social skills. They don't feel the need to just stand out in the street, because what do they have? You tell them they got concerts. Have you seen the price of concert tickets? Children aren't going there. Even if they go to your favourite festival, the kids can't afford it. And if they manage to get in there, because we've seen them stampede some of the most infamous festivals in London, for example, Wireless. And what happens? A ruckus. Calm places. So then when children do go out, they're not overstimulated. Oh my God, I don't get to go out often. So what am I going to do? I'm going to act up. I'm going to drink. I'm going to do all these things because I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to do that. No. Let them develop the skill of being able to socialize on a weekly basis, have access to things so they don't have to do the wrong thing in order to buy that thing for themselves and hide it at home anyway. Because parents, the ones that care, will ask a child, how the hell did you afford a 200, 300 pound piece of technology? Because the tech isn't cheap either. And with the way people are getting paid, forget adult statutory pay. Children, for kids, teenagers, forget NIH and upwards, when you can have like an NI number and whatnot, it's abysmal. So to afford any type of technological device that's upwards of £300-500, it's going to take a lot of shifts to afford that. So of course a parent is going to ask, how did you get it? Another thing that we need to be strict on is, let's be frank, the social media apps are making a lot of money through advertising, ad space, users actually using the platforms. The kids, we need better restrictions for children, because they are able to get themselves in a lot of things that are going on where there are adults, the wrong type of adults, to have eyes on them. And everybody's child is one message away from being in the mix with very dark characters. Yeah, and it's only because I don't want to get shadow banned. That's why I'm not giving the full wording. But when we're talking about people in the industry of grooming, from the physical to financial, it's not just about your traditional mind frame of grooming and you're thinking the physical side of things. There are people that are using children, teenagers, to get credit cards out, to open bank accounts. So you're ruining their financial credit life before they've even started. Yeah, in case you didn't know, it's not about protecting your child from people that are of the P word. There are people opening up bank accounts in your children's name because they make them feel like adults. There are people taking out credit cards. There are people going on benefits under your children's names. So when I say be able to know what your social media, what's going on, you have parents going, oh, I ain't got time for that. You might not like social media. You might not have time for social media. But if you are a parent, you better understand social media, because that is another world that your child, one of the most precious things to you in your world, is involved in. So learn it, understand it, so you're able to protect them. Yeah? Because there's some serious things going on. I understand that parents are struggling. I do. It's a hard, expensive society to survive in. It strains not only the purse strings but the mental. But please, when you have children, have the amount you can afford, not just financially but mentally. Then when you do have these kids, be attentive. Sharpen your active listening skills, please, because a lot of people will come on the news and they'll be crying, how did this happen? People, and children in particular, they fall under the radar all the time, and all it took was one attentive adult in their life, and it should be their parent. It shouldn't really be a teacher. Teachers are having to come in contact with hundreds of children a day. Forget a term, forget a year, just in a day we're talking 30, 50 upwards. Not every teacher, even though it is a duty of care for them to report anything that they feel like might be a harm to that child, they can only do so much. That's why we cannot rely on the state to raise our children. And the reason why you can't is because a lot of children and a lot of state-run schools, and I'm talking about state in the in the realm of being funded by the country, yeah. When we talk about these secondary schools that get turned into academies because they want them to be better and get up to Ofsted standards, those schools, do not be fooled. They are very much underfunded. And when you got 30 children to a class, and sometimes they try to sneak in about 2 or 3, and then you got a whole nother department of children, and that's SEN, and that's special education needs. A lot of these things go under the radar. So you have to be there for your children, because even though they are state-run schools, even the state isn't pumping in the amount of money that they know they can, because they have the money, but they are not putting in the amount of money needed in these schools to fund them properly. I'm talking about getting the best of the best when it comes to the tools they need, textbooks, when we're talking about sporting departments as well, having these children engaged in something that gives them that hunger for life. Being part of a school which is saying that, we specialize in the sciences and maths and art and all these sporting events that can go on, but these schools can't afford them. That's why, as parents, you got to put in the hours. You got to put in the hours. It's not just about providing a home and putting food in the fridge and having clothing on their backs. You have to put in the extracurricular hours to feed the mental of a child. We don't want angry children out on these streets anymore. We don't deserve it, and you don't deserve it too. So what's the point, especially from the standpoint of a woman, what's the point of putting your life on the line to give birth to a child and that child to be useless to society? I'm going to stop there, because when it comes to kids, I get very passionate about it, because children really are the future and they have to be cherished so much when it comes to raising them. So, guys, if you are a parent or you know someone that's a parent, please just tell them, listen, I know you love your children, but if you got to be firmer with them, be firmer with them. So make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment, and make sure you get the hottest drink out here right now. That is Chapman's of London. You don't need the rubbish, low calorie, and all the flavors. Until then, you've been listening or watching another banging episode of Hey Sis UK. Stay blessed. Bye. Givenchy laced in Gucci. Quick, take the keys and drive to Chelsea. Eat a Scalini, order linguine. He ordered the chateau. We got it to go, then flew to the chateau. You already know. Friends telling me they see the glow. There's no way they know. Well, I guess it shows. That's a seed you sowed. My baby looking too good, yeah, she perfect. No, she worth it. When she pull up, all them man, them flirting. And yeah, she know that she a dime. Call up on my line. Told her, baby.